I'm interested to talk now about Labour's reaction to it, because Jeremy Corbyn has called for properties in Kensington and Chelsea to be requisitioned. Now, what you're talking about here is some of the most expensive properties in London. I mean, this would cost hundreds of millions of pounds. So I put it to you that you're not making serious policy proposals here, you're playing to the crowd.
No, what's happened is, and we've been saying this for a long period of time, organisations like Shelter as well are trying to point out the obscenity of the housing crisis that we've got, the overcrowding, the poor housing that we've got, particularly in our capital city. And at the same time as that, you have properties standing empty for long periods of time. In addition to that, in London, we're blighted by the fact that we have overseas developers buying properties up and actually leaving them empty on many occasions.
But these are different issues here. You're talking about the wider housing issues. You're not talking about what Jeremy Corbyn called for, which is to immediately requisition these core properties.
Sophie, they are linked. They are linked. People would not be living in high-rise blocks, unsafe conditions, and some of them very poor quality, if we didn't have the housing crisis. And part of that housing crisis is as a result of allowing housing, particularly in London, to be used for speculative gain rather than housing need. Now, what Jeremy said is if we've got a crisis like that, we need urgent measures. And if there are empty properties nearby, they should be used. And councils have the power to do that already.
Through compulsory purchase,
if necessary,
which would take weeks. So it wouldn't help, would it?
You can use the existing law extremely fast. But it does point to
by law, the owners must be notified, given 21 days to raise objections. Then there's another 14 days after the
any court in emergency measures, as we saw in wartime periods as well. You can requisition properties. You will need powers to do it. We've got those powers. If necessary, I would have convened Parliament immediately to, if necessary, push new legislation through within 24 hours if that was necessary. We cannot be in a situation where you have people who have lost their homes and we're struggling to find alternative accommodation.
No one would disagree with that.
And then you have properties standing empty.
No one would disagree, of course, with the need to rehouse people as quickly as possible. But my point is more about whether requisitioning property is the best way to do it. When, for example, hotel rooms could be cheaper, perhaps not as popular, but
if you look
cheaper.
at what happened in some of the hotel rooms as well, people didn't feel comfortable in those. We saw one example of the council moving one gentleman into accommodation for older people, which was completely inappropriate and unsuitable to him. I tell you, I would have done whatever necessary to house those families for what they've been through. And if that needs requisition in local properties, yes, if necessary, because they suffered so much.